Is from the 1400s, so it's nearly approximately 600 years old. Very welcome to the municipality of Frederikshavn. My name is Poul Rask Nielsen and I'm the head of Energy City Frederikshavn. And I would like to tell you the program for today's lesson. First of all, you will be listening to my own speech, where I will give you an introduction to how are the Danish regulations in general about CO2 reduction for the next years, short, medium term from 2030 until 2050. And then afterwards I will give you an introduction to how we work with CO2 reduction and swifting from black to green energy in our municipality. After my introduction in general to Denmark and to our municipality, my colleague Jesper Ø will be talking about waste and what are the Danish regulations, and he will also be talking a little bit about the future, about how we try to recycle more and more of the waste, and that will be the main points of his introduction. Finally, you will meet two of my colleagues from the local facility management center, which are responsible for all the municipal buildings. They will tell you a little bit about the history of the demands for buildings, energy consumption in Denmark over the last 50 years, and they will also tell you about what are the new regulations. They will also tell you a little bit about the shift that has been going on from building a building and then deliver it to the customer to looking at the building as a long-term use. So for the future, I think they say that of course it is about building a building with low energy consumption, but also about how satisfying is the building for the users. Hi, my name is Poul Rask Nielsen and I'm the daily head of what we call Energy City Frederikshavn. I'm working in this municipality and has been working on this project for 10 years now. And what we are trying to do is to do a transformation from black to green. And behind that, our vision is to also to create a lot of new local jobs in this transformation. I will tell you a little bit about the Danish regulation, and afterwards I will give you some showcases from our municipality, how we are trying to solve the problem with the climate. What you see here in front is actually from one of our district heating companies. They are at the moment trying to do the transformation. This company has been working with solar panels, and also when you see the two tanks up here, they can, when the electricity from wind turbines offshore is cheap, they buy it cheap and can store it for a couple of days. So if there's no smoke coming from the chimney, it's a good sign, because then it's because the solar panels are working, or they have been buying cheap electricity from the offshore wind turbines. At the moment they are working to establish a data center at their field, and what they want to use is that they want to use the surplus heat from the data center, and actually the surplus heat alone from this data center can heat up the whole town for free, more or less. So they are swapping cold water, and instead of they are getting hot water bags. Just to show you where are we actually located. You are located in the northern part of Europe, also what we call Scandinavia, and in Denmark we are in the northern part of Jutland, and then you see our municipality from north to south. It's about 100 kilometers, and we have a number of inhabitants of 60,000 people. Most of them are living in single houses, and 1/3 part of them is living on the rural area, and 2/3 part of them is living in the towns. 2/3 part of the houses is heated by district heating, and that's very common in Denmark to have district heating instead of single heating houses. The Danish government has focused on two things. They have a medium and a long-term goal. One of the strategies is focusing on 2030, and that's a quite new strategy which came last year in 2019. And then we have the long-term goal 2050, where they want to be 100%, they want to make this CO2 reduction 100%. The Danish government wants to reduce the CO2 emissions with 70% in 2030. And actually it's, all the government is backing up to this decision. And now we are trying to see how can we actually do this in only 10 years. And that's quite quick. What the National Action Plan is that they want to build 2 islands offshore, and then they want to put up a lot of wind turbines to deliver electricity to Denmark. But their dream is to export electricity for Europe. So they see the transformation as a new adventure for a new income and a creation for new jobs. So that's I think it's very exciting, the times which will be coming, and they also want to use all the electricity to create new fuels for buses and flights and cars. And another thing they want to do is, the first thing they want to do is they want to make a carbon capture and then storage it. They have a lot of empty oil fields, old empty oil fields offshore, and then they want to put down the CO2 that they have captured down to these old oil fields, and they can store it for many, many years. And then the next step will be, how can we use the CO2 for new fuels, also what we call CCU, or in a modern term, power to X, and power to X you can use for flights. So it's a very interesting future we are looking at, but it will take some years before the technology is ready. So they're experimenting at the moment. Another thing they are trying to do is they are trying to motivate the industry to do the transformation, and the way they try to motivate the industry to do the transformation from black to green is that they give grants to the industry, so they use more green electricity, and they use the production more energy efficient. And the government is actually going to do the same for private house owners. They offer them grants so that they can do insulation, put in new windows and things like that in their houses. And it's actually a very good grant for the transformation. I think at the moment the grant is approximately perhaps 25 to 30% of the budget when you are doing the insulation or putting up new windows. So it's actually quite a lot of money. And what is good when you're putting up these grants is that you're also creating a lot of jobs for the local craftsmen which are doing the work. And I think in the future that one of the plans, and also one of my colleagues, Jesper, will tell you about that, is to separate waste and invest in recycling plants more and more. Instead of today, they are burning the waste, and they will, in a few years, they will close down a lot of the incinerators. And another goal is that at the moment, most of Denmark, or all buildings in Denmark need heat because of you are in the cold part of northern Europe, and then they want to swap the heat from black to green, and also want to electrify a lot of the heat. So many houses has until now been heated up by natural gas or oil. And in the future, they want to use people to use heat pumps to heat up the houses, and therefore they support the house owners with grants to do the change from the old oil heater or gas heater to the what do we call it, the heat pumps. And that's the first support. The next support will be that they want to people can buy cheaper electricity when they heat up their houses with electricity. And then they want, if you want to use biomass, then they say it's okay, but it has to be sustainable. So when you're cutting down trees, you have to plant new forests. The best thing would be that we planted more forest than we break down. And the last goal for the national government is that in 2030 they want to have 1 million electric cars, and today we have nearly 0 electric cars, so that's quite a goal. And just to have an impression of how much is 1 million cars is that in Denmark, in total, 5.5 million people are living, so it's actually quite a lot in 10 years. Sometimes people from abroad, they ask me, Paul, how can you see the climate changes in your area? Because do we actually have any climate changes? And this picture shows from a small village 6 years ago, there was falling so much rain in a few days, so the whole area was flooded with water because the water could not leave the fields fast enough. So most of this little city was flooded, and afterwards I will show you in practice what have we been doing to prevent that would be happening in the future. And of course this is a big problem for the people living here. Not economical, because they have all and private insurance, so everybody of the people living there, they had to move out from the houses in a half year to dry up the houses again and restore them. And the insurance was paying them, so it was not an economical catastrophe, but for the families, they were without homes for 6 months. It was not a pleasant adventure. But today the problem is solved. But the thing that is happening in our area is that there are coming more and more rain and more heavy rain, and we have to solve that in a way so we can get rid of the water, so that we don't have this flooding. Another thing that we have a lot of in our area is that it's a very windy area, but the new thing is that the wind is getting more tough, and that means that when you're doing constructions at the buildings, you have to construct them with the roofs has to be tougher, and because the wind is going to be much more tough in the future. So two things we are going to handle is how do we handle the more water which is falling down, and how do we handle the more wind which is coming. The last thing I just will show you about climate changes is that 2 years ago we had an historic summer and 5 Danish records was made. We had the most sunny months. It started in April and stopped in September. And normally that's 2 or 3 months longer than normal. We had the earliest summer day starting. We had the highest temperatures. We had the warmest seawater and the driest summer. For us who is living in the city, it was actually a little bit pleasant because we have subtropic climate, but for the farmers it was a catastrophe because they could not farm as much on the fields as they used to. But I think the biggest problem for us in our area is the water and the wind. What I would like to tell you now is that you heard about the national goals, but on a local level, the municipal level, we are working with new things too. Normally, Energy City Frederikshavn has been working with the energy transformation and the CO2 reduction combined with the energy transformation. But in the future, we have to make out a climate plan which is working with both energy and climate and the climate reductions in the climate. And at the moment, only 20 of 100 municipalities in Denmark is working with this as a pilot project. We are following the Paris Agreement so that the temperature should not rise more than 1.50. But it has been such a success so that from next year the rest of the municipalities in Denmark will follow us, and we have to be trainees for them to train them up, and the main focus will be CO2 reduction emissions by the transformation from black to green energy, and also reduce their climate efforts. It's a quite serious plan. So for us, this is really a new step, but a good step. But it demands a lot of work, and it demands a lot of new decisions from the local politicians, because this means changes in 10 years. Just to show a little bit about our municipality. Our municipality has been, for hundreds of years, been living off the blue ocean, because we have the blue ocean just outside our door, and therefore the maritime service and reparation it's very close to 50% of the local inhabitants is working with the maritime sector or the blue ocean. And then we have the tourism. We have 1.0 million tourists visiting the point called Skagen every year, and that's the second most visited place in Denmark, beside the little mermaid in Copenhagen. And then we have the food industry with a lot of fish, and we have a lot of pig production, and lately we had the new track which was called the energy track. And the reason why the local politicians want us to work with that, and they established Energy City Frederikshavn, was that they said what you establish in the energy track is new jobs for the future. And what they mean with that is that they want to establish new jobs with a green label on. That's what we really work with. So we work with creating jobs for the future. Yeah. The goal is when we established the Energy City, in a way it was, we want 100% CO2 reduction in our municipality as fast as possible. We hope it could be in 2030. I don't know. I hope we can succeed, but perhaps 1 or 2 years later, I don't know. But I think that was one of the things, CO2 reduction 100%, but behind this it is a business project, because we want to establish new jobs in this transformation. And I think that's very important, because normally it would be a lot of extra money that the municipality has to pay to get this transformation to happen. But when you think it as a business promotion project, you think it as how can we create jobs for the future, instead of that you have to put a lot of money into it. Therefore, we are always looking for private investments when we are doing this transformation. I will show you later what kind of private investments it could be. And of course, if I have to say it in short words, what is it? What do we actually work with? We work with the transformation from importing black energy like natural gas or oil to local produced green energy. And then we want to have some demonstration sites. I'll show you later on which kind of demonstration sites we have in scale 1 to 1. And of course, as I said in the beginning, we want to realize a 100% fossil-free society. And what we do in Energy City Frederikshavn is that we coordinate, collect, push, make startups, and that's what we also do with the climate plan when that will be succeeded this year. One of the strategies that we've been working with when we are saying we have to build it up as a business promotion project is that we're building up a local energy cluster, and today we have registered more than 200 companies working with energy projects, energy counseling, energy production and distribution, or education and training, or the craftsmen. So actually we have a lot of local companies working with this. And also, if we look out, we have a strategy that we have to work together with a lot of different partners, and we have a lot of partnership agreements. For example, we work with internationalization, we work together with the Danish embassies, we work together with embassies from abroad, foreign embassies. We have a lot of network with companies, with branch organizations. We have a lot of teamwork with the local university and some of the other universities which are specialized in this green transformation. Then when new companies are starting, we are trying to help them with their entrepreneurship. And another thing is that a lot of the companies, they have some of the competences that you need when you do the transformation, but they don't have the products. And therefore we help them to do the conversion from what they are doing now to begin to work with the products from the green sector. This is a very good example of how we are doing what we've been doing. This company is called Victor DST, and they have always been working with the oil and oil gas industry offshore. But a few years ago, this market collapsed in the North Sea, especially outside from the Norwegian coast, and therefore they had to do something else that they have not been working with. And today, 2 years after, they are selling district heat pumps for the district heating companies, and in 2 years they did the transformation, and we helped them to find the companies that they needed to cooperate with to do this transformation. And today they are sitting on perhaps 50% of the market in Denmark, and that has really been a company that they're not working any more with the black industry. They are only working with the green industry. So that was one of the transformation. But at the same time, their income raised 500%. So it was quite a transformation. And they have also sold a lot of heat, or not a lot, but they have sold heat pumps for 3 of the local district heating companies which has different sizes. So I think this is a part of the future, and electrification, where you go from heating up the district heating companies with natural gas to do this electrification. And when we are focusing on doing the electrification, it's because we want to make a lot of renewable energy, mainly from wind, but also from solar panels. At the place we are doing this movie, it's called Knivholt Hovedgård. We have a small test site, we call it Center for Sustainability, and here companies can come and do research and development, and they can do tests and demonstration, network, and have and meet with other companies. And this is just the 2 pictures is just showing you what are they actually testing. For example, one local company is testing LED, small LED on gutters, so they could lighten up the buildings with beautiful old building. And another company is testing solar cells with or without cooling. And always some companies are testing smaller things here to develop new products of doing their products better. This is another thing that we are testing at the moment. We also have an offshore test site for wave energy plants. This wave energy plant is producing electricity by the waves when it's 2 pontons connected together, and when they are moving, it's producing electricity. At the moment, it's been testing just outside, 4 kilometers outside the harbor where we are staying, and actually it's producing quite a lot of electricity. One of the efforts has been how do you anchor up such a plant when the wind is shifting and it has to turn around, but it is very, very good results at the moment. And in a way, it's a very primitive machine, but when you're on the ocean, you have to make simple solutions because of the strong weather. This is another thing which is coming. In 2 years, we have been raising up a test site for offshore wind. We want to be a test site for the second generation of offshore wind turbines, and what they would like to test is different things. They want to test, can we assemble the whole wind turbine at the harbor, and then in a way take it out where it has gone to be put. It would be much more cheap if you can assemble it on harbor instead of doing it offshore, sorry. And then, of course, another thing they are testing is the size of the wind turbines. Normally, a Danish wind turbine, from example, Siemens or Vestas, would be about 10 megawatt. I think for the future, they would grow to 15 megawatt or something like that, and they have to test how can we raise things that would be growing so fast, so high, that I think it will be approximately 275 meters, and that's quite more than the normal wind turbines offshore we have today. So it's very interesting, but also important to have it close to a harbor, so that you can experiment with the things close to land. The way we have been making our road, or the roadmap for the future, has been until now. We have had a strategic energy plan But from tomorrow or next year we will use the climate plan, but still it has been our way to be on the road, to stay on the road, to have this energy plan, but also action plans with different things. How can we do this transformation? And every year we have been doing an evaluation, which we've been talking to our local politicians about. How is it going, and why was this going, and why was this not going? And the whole implementation, when we are going from black to green energy in our municipality, would cost approximately 1 billion euro. And it has to be financed by mainly private investments. And what we have seen is that this could create 7,000 new jobs, and actually that's quite a lot of jobs compared to that there are only living 60,000 people in our municipality. So that's the main reason why we are focusing so much on the transformation, is that we can create jobs for the future. This is a model of how we are thinking we can do the transformation. We are doing the transformation by creating our energy local, and therefore we have been looking at what resources do we have local to create this energy. And we have 10 district heating companies, and they are very easy to swap to some other things when we are doing the green transformation. For example, today they burn the waste, heat up 1/3 part of this town. You have a lot of pig production, cows, etc. And therefore you can build up some big biogas plants, because we have a lot of resources for biogas. And then, as I told you, one of the bad things with the climate change is that we have a lot of wind, but if you turn it to something positive, instead of you say, oh, you have a lot of wind, then let us put up some wind turbines, and then you can produce the electricity, because the wind is nearly always blowing here. And then of course we have the possibility to put up solar farms. At the moment a lot of companies wants to put up solar farms in our municipality, because it is actually a good, the landscape is good for picking up energy from solar farms. And then we have, as I told you, as an experimental, we have the wave energy plant. This is the production side, which should give 100%, but if it cannot give 100% renewable energy, then you have, instead of to think the opposite way, to say, how can we reduce some of the energy consumption? And therefore, the last thing over here, energy renovation in buildings, is actually one of the heaviest things that demands a lot of energy. I think 1/3 part of, or 25% of the energy consumption in our area is going for heating up houses. So if you can reduce the heating up the houses, that's another way to come to our goal, which is 100% renewable in a few years. Some of my colleagues will tell you a lot about how do they work with the reduction of the energy consumption in new buildings and in old buildings. And then of course in the future, because the buildings are getting, they're using less and less energy, mainly new buildings, then you in the future have to think about cooling in the summertime. So that will be one of the new things. And then you have the transport sector. At the moment, the transport sector is the biggest effort we have, because we don't have an electrification at the moment. We have started using upgraded biogas for trucks and waste trucks and for biogas buses, etc., but not many private cars are using biogas. And electric cars is quite new for us at the moment, but it will be coming in a few years, I think so. just to give you a perspective on how fast can we work, what are we going to do if we have to do this transformation. If we put up a biogas plant for 10 million cubic meter biogas, it will give approximately 4% of the energy consumption. If you put up a typical wind farm with 3.3 megawatt and 6 wind turbines onshore, that could give approximately 3% of the local energy consumption. A solar park will give 0.5% if it's on T hectare. I think that the solar parks which will be coming up now would be about 60 hectares. So that means close to 2%. And I think there would be up to 5 to 10 solar parks with 65 hectares in the future. So they would also be growing. And I think the combination with biogas, wind and solar is very good, because when the wind is not blowing, perhaps the wind is not blowing very much in the summertime. So therefore it's very good in the summertime that we have the solar parks, and in the opposite, the solar parks don't work in the wintertime, but here there's a lot of wind, so that would be helping. But what do we do if the wind is not blowing and the sun is not shining? Then it's good to have the biogas plant as a supplement. And in Denmark we have a national grid with gas, and that's very good because we have storage possibilities with the natural gas, which means that if there's not electricity from wind or from solar panels, then you can use the biogas from the storage in the national grid. I will now show you an example from the district heating, how that would be working. That is working in a lot of different ways. At the moment we have a company called Man Energy Solution. They are testing engines for ships. And actually for many years this testing has been producing a lot of hot water when they were testing the engines, but they had to cool it down and were paying money to cool it down. And instead of, they made a partnership with the local district heating company, and that means that all the heat from the testing is now going to heat up houses in the town called Frederikshavn, which we are staying in now. And that's a good solution to make these partnerships, to say, hey, what is waste for one company can be positive and a good solution for another company. The waste trucks you see there is actually driving on biogas, upgraded biogas, and that is also another way they are putting the waste into, they're burning the waste, so it produces approximately 30% of the heat in the town today is by burning waste. In the future, they are talking about establishing an LNG project at the harbor, and that's because they know that the ships are going to do a transformation in the future, so they're not sailing on heavy fuel, but they have to use new fuels with fewer emissions. And when this LNG is produced, the compression of the gas will produce a lot of heat, and that heat you can use again to heat up the town when you have the district heating company. And therefore they are also talking about how can we make a giga energy storage, because in the summertime you are not using very much heat, but if you can store it for the winter time, it could be a very, very nice way of nearly heating up a town like this for free. This is another solution I have been telling you in the introduction about the picture at the left, and the apartments at the right side you see this apartment, they deliver in the summertime. They have solar, the solar panels on the roof is delivering heat for the district heating company in the summertime, but in the winter time the apartments are consumers of heat, and then the district heating company delivers heat. So that's another way of doing a wise partnership. Well, let's look at the biogas and transport. The good thing about establishing a biogas plant is that we have a lot of stuff from animals that are not used with a lot of gas, and when you have the national gas grid, you can upgrade the gas and put it into the grid. The price will be approximately 30 million euro, and actually this is a private investment. It has not been a problem to find the investor, because they would like to raise up the biogas, and they know that it will be a product that will be asked for in the future. So therefore they are ready to put it up, and without investments from the municipality. So only private investment. But behind this, I think it's important to look at this as a value chain, because if you produce biogas, then you are doing the green transformation with energy. But you are, again, when you build the biogas plant and when you drift it, you are also creating new jobs for the future. And that's local jobs. But you are also solving a problem for the transportation sector, which we have not been solving yet, because you can use the gas for transportation without problems. You can use it for heavy transportation, trucks and buses and things like that. And that would give new employment to the auto sector, because they can do the service and maintenance for those trucks driven by gas. And then you can produce, for the farmers, you can produce more pigs, because and produce more biomass, and then you can maintain the employment at the local slaughtery. If there's no pigs, there's no slaughtery, and the slaughtery has at the moment 1,000 people working at the slaughtery. So it's important to keep these jobs too. So that's the way when we are thinking planning, and we are thinking how can we develop this municipality. It's important to think it as a value chain, so create new jobs, keep the existing jobs, and always think about how can we get more out of it. This is what my colleague Jesper will show you. It's converting organic waste to green energy. That when you are picking up household waste, you can turn it into biogas. And this company is actually also a private investment. Jesper will show you a short video about the company, so I won't go into it. But again, what has been waste until now is actually converted into green money. Another example is what we have been doing with the transport sector. Some buses is driving on biogas, some waste trucks are driving on upgraded biogas, some municipal cars are driving on upgraded biogas, and also some of the city buses. And I think this is also slowly doing a change, but I think in the future it will not be only biogas driven cars and trucks. It will more be, the private cars will be mainly driven by electricity. When we talk wind turbines, we have quite a lot of potential here in because offshore we can produce 97 megawatt, and offshore we can produce 97 megawatt wind, and onshore 127. That's quite a lot actually. And if it was possible to put up all those wind turbines, we had been doing the transformation to 100% renewable. But at the moment, it's not very popular at the population to put up wind turbines onshore. So it's not easy to be a politician if the whole local public sector is against it. But still, it gives us a possibility to create a lot of new employment and of course also maintain the existing. But there's a lot of jobs in this. A little bit about energy renovation in buildings and what we've been doing. I will mainly speak about private buildings because my colleagues will afterwards come and tell you about how do we work with public buildings, but I will tell you about how we work with private buildings. Just to show you, in a few years the reduction or the energy consumption has been reduced from a new building from 2008, where it was legal for a house to use 70 kilowatt per square meter per year. Until now, in 12 years, it has been reduced to 17 kilowatt per square meter per year. So that's quite a reduction when you're building new buildings. So that new buildings is not a problem in our area because they nearly don't use any energy consumption. But remember, we only put up 1% new buildings per year. So it would take a lot of years before the old buildings has been swapped out or broken down. What we try to do is that we try to motivate the local citizens to do this energy renovation. And we've been doing it by different ways. We have been making a magazine which says if you put up insulation on your roof, then you actually earn money in a few years because the temperature will raise and you don't use as much energy as you normally do. We go out for public meetings and talk to the people in villages. We invite them to come to evening meetings where we talk about what can you do, what will it cost you approximately. And we have also been making a rolling office which we called knock knock, as when you're knocking on the door. Then if people not are coming to us, we are coming to them. So we would put up this rolling office in the street and say next week from 3 to 6 we will be staying here. You can come and have advices if you want to. It's free. We will help you to discuss what you can do. Another way of motivation is that people can come and lend tools so that they can look at their own house and see what is wrong with my house, or what. The one thing is that they could use a thermographic camera, and when you're using a thermographic camera, the best thing from outside is that if the color is blue, it's very good. If it's yellow, actually it's bad. So you see, this is a house from 1870, 130 years old, and you see there's coming a lot of heat out from the windows and from the chimney, and then perhaps the owner of this house, he should shift the windows to some new windows. Another thing that people can lend for free is a spirometer, which means that you can test how much electricity is my freezer using, how much electricity is my television using, and then you can find out if you have some old equipment that is cheaper, would be cheaper if you change it instead of keeping it. Actually, I have an old freezer which I should have been kicking away for years, but some way I have not done it, but I know that it would be a good idea. Another thing that we have for success is that we have an offer that the local energy company says that people can have energy counseling for free. This man at the right side is going out and visiting the house owners for 1 hour, and after this 1 hour visit he would make a report and say what is the possibilities for this building to save money and do energy renovation. And actually he has over the last 10 years been visiting 5,000 private houses in our municipality, and remember that we only have 60,000 inhabitants. That means that he has been visiting quite a lot of the buildings in our municipality. The last thing I think I would mention for you is that we are trying to motivate the local citizens to this green transformation, and 2 years ago we created the first youth climate council in Denmark, and those young people is not like Greta Thunberg from Sweden, which is protesting against what adults has been doing of bad things for years. Instead of protesting, they are saying, no, we are going to show you how you can make a change for the future that is better for the climate. For example, they made up a pop-up restaurant where people could come and have climate-friendly food, and they have been making pop-up with used clothes, so 20 stores with used clothes, and things like that. They have been making a sustainable development bike route. So instead of saying it is bad what you have been doing for years, they're saying, no, come and follow us, we will show you the road for the future. And that is the young people. Then we have the adult people, which we have been called the climate ambassadors, and actually they are working quite like the Youth Climate Council, showing things that what can we do for the future to do it better. Yeah, and that was my introduction, and if you want to follow us on our website, you can see it there. Thank you.
My name is Jesper Christensen. My presentation deals with waste management and waste planning in Frederikshavn Municipality, with focus on how we collect and treat municipal waste from household. My background is 30 years of environmental work in Denmark, primarily in Frederikshavn Municipality and in a waste management company. Today I deal with waste management, wastewater planning and casework in relation to industry. The purpose of this presentation is to look at the solution we have chosen in Frederikshavn Municipality regarding waste handling and municipal solid waste and municipal food waste. And finally, I will give you some thoughts about the future and new upcoming legislation. First, I want to start the presentation with a single slide that shows why it is important to handle waste in a sustainable way. Next, I will give you a short view of the planning process in Denmark and in the municipality, followed by a presentation of the different collection systems and the various treatment plants we have in Frederikshavn. Finally, a brief presentation of possibly new initiatives in the future. The need to take global responsibility for our planet is more needed than ever. Globally, we face several significant challenges with global climate change, drought or flood, but also lack of resources caused by other use are issues we must address in the future. Frederikshavn City Council has set up a committee to put up the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals on the agenda in the municipality. The committee sees the 17 sustainability goals as the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The committee focus area is to spread the word of sustainability in the local community in general. In relation to waste, I will mention 2 examples regarding the importance of focus on waste to achieve sustainable future. The pressure on our resources is growing, and especially recycling of rare elements for the industry and other fatal resources become more and more relevant. But also recycling of phosphor for agriculture will be important in the future. This is one of the reasons the municipality has started collection of food waste. Disposal and treatment of waste can produce emission of several greenhouse gases which contribute to global climate change. This is very important, and therefore it is very important to minimize incineration and increase recycling. The figures on the slide shows how the European countries deals with waste and the amount of waste per capita in the different countries. In this context, Denmark has a not so good leading position, being the country in Europe producing most waste per capita. The amount of municipal waste per capita and per year varies from 250 kilos in Romania to 750 kilogram in Denmark. In 2014, municipal waste generated per person was highest in Denmark and Switzerland and lowest in Romania, Poland and Serbia. And I have just seen the figures again, and it's the same today. I'll not go deeper into this topic, but keep it in your mind. In Denmark, the municipality have the responsibility to make a plan for handling of waste. The plan is based on European and Danish legislation. The Danish environmental legislation states that municipalities have to prepare a waste plan which covers a period of years. In this case, we have made a plan spanning 10 years. The plan contains and is based on 3 pillars. The mapping, where waste resources in the municipality is mapped, and we have a target and planning section for the upcoming years. The plan covers 60,000 tons of waste per year. In 2019, we started to collect food waste. The figures here shows the amount of waste collected per year before the collection of food. When we start to collect food, we had a goal that 4,000 tons of food waste should be collected from the residual waste, and we can see that this goal was achieved in 2019 as a whole. The municipality has formulated the objective and goals in the waste plan on the basis of local and national data, taking the waste hierarchy into account, as you can see here. That table on the slide shows the recycling percentage that Frederikshavn Municipality must achieve before 2022. It is the municipality's goal to meet the current national targets by 2022. The overall goal for recycling household waste is 50%. For paper it is 60%, and for bottles it's 55%. The current recycling percent is only 44%, so we still have a way to go. The collection of food waste has increased the recycling rate for municipal waste in general, but we still have a gap before we meet the goal. National targets for recycling are increasing, and new legislation is in draft and is expected to come into force in 2021. Frederikshavn Municipality handles municipal waste through the collection of domestic waste and through a number of recycling arrangements. The collected waste is treated for recycling, combusting, and that means mainly garden and park waste. Food waste is pre-treated for use in biogas plant. Residual waste that cannot be recycled goes to an incinerator plant with district heat facility, and finally we have a small amount of waste going to landfill. I will now give you a brief overview of the different collection systems and next a brief description of the different plants. We have here a picture of the collection system we use today. Every family living in villa, townhouses or country houses must sort waste in a number of fractions in containers provided by the municipality. Apartment houses have a system similar to the self-delivery system with some extra containers. First of all, household waste from the kitchen should be divided into two fractions: residual waste and food waste. Food waste contain energy and minerals, especially phosphor, that is a limited resource and important to get back on farmland. Second, every house has a container for paper for recycling, and finally discharged batteries for separate treatment as hazardous waste. As previously mentioned, national targets for recycling are increasing, and we expect new guidelines coming into force in 2021. One of the proposed changes is increased collection by the household with up to 10 different recycling fractions. We are considering future options, but is still waiting for the final legislation. Frederikshavn Municipality has established a number of central located collection containers which citizens can use for the disposal of glass bottles, plastic bottles and metal cans. They are collected around 450 tons of paper and cardboard in containers. Together with paper and cardboard from the household collection system, it gives a collected volume of about 2,200 tons in 2017. The amount has been slightly declining in the last year due to less printed advertisement and newspapers and more use of electronic media. The collection of glass, metal and plastic packaging takes place in bottles where the three fractions are mixed. Analysis of the content of the bottles has shown that people have a high ability to sort correct when it comes to glass. Unfortunately, the collected amount of plastic and metal package is very limited in the arrangement, something we will focus on in the upcoming future and in upcoming new legislation. 16 recycling sites with different sizes have been established in Frederikshavn Municipality, as you can see on the map. The smallest sites have limited opening hours and only opportunity to receive a few kind of waste fractions, typically metal, construction waste, combustible residual waste for incineration, garden waste and paper. The larger sites with expanded opening hours and can provide greater options to separate the waste into several different waste fractions. Around 35,000 tons of waste is collected through the municipality recycling arrangement. The total volume has been stable in recent years with variations in the different fractions. The 4 largest sites collect 75% of the total volume. One of the challenges in the last year has been to ensure the purity of incoming construction waste so that the material does not contain problematic fraction as electric components, PCB, heavy metal from paint, etc. Something to focus on in the future. More collection by the household due to new legislation can mean closing down the smallest recycling sites, but nothing is yet decided. There is one operating landfill in Frederikshavn. The plant was established 7 years ago. In 2009, the plant received the approval to expand, and the expansion has a capacity of approximately 70,000 tons of mixed waste. The previous existing area of the landfill is closed down, as you can see on the picture. A part of the closed area is used for recycling of construction waste, cinder from incineration and garden waste, oil-contaminated soil, building waste with asbestos and other fraction for special treatment. One of the biggest recycling facilities is also located on the site, as you can see. Residual waste for burning from household is treated at the incinerator located in Frederikshavn. Residual waste from recycling site is also treated at the incineration plant, as well as industrial and commercial waste. A total amount of approximately 35,000 tons of waste is incinerated at the plant per year. The plant produces district heating and electricity in the incineration process and are therefore valuable energy supplies to the district heating supply in Frederikshavn. The plant makes about 1/3 of the city's heat consumption of district heating. The heat production corresponds to the heating required for approximately 3,000 houses. The key figures from the plant is shown in the slide. More recycling means less waste for incineration, and consequences could be that the plant has to be closed down. A national committee is working on a mapping of the total combustion capacity in Denmark. The result of the work may also mean that our plant in Frederikshavn will have to close during a period of the next 10 years. In April 2019, Gemidan, a private company, opened a new plant for pre-treatment of organic waste in Frederikshavn. The plant is located next to the incineration, as you can see in the picture. Frederikshavn Municipality has made a contract with the company to handle food waste, a deal other municipalities in the area also has done. The task in the facility is to transform food waste into biopulp that can be used for energy, fuel and fertilizer, and to take phosphor out for the farmland. The quality of the food waste collected is very good and exactly as expected when the plant was planned. The process is when the garbage truck has delivered the residual waste at the incinerating plant, it continues to the pre-treatment plant. In the hall, the waste comes through a feeder box into the pulper, that is a large centrifuge, and water is added in the process. Gemidan mainly use water collected outside from the roof and roadways, as you can see beside the plant. During the pulping, the organic material will be dissolved in the water fraction as a paste of biopulp. After the pulping process, the biopulp must be separated from plastic and other foreign elements. It happens by passing the pulp through a separator. The finishing pulp is stored in a big tank, and plastic and foreign elements are sent to the incinerator. It will now be able to see a video of how all the process is going on in the plant.
We humans love to consume, and we generate lots of waste. Lots and lots of waste. In fact, each one of us discards about half a kilo of waste in the dustbin every single day. This adds up to more than 200 kilos of waste a year. The climate is changing all over the world. Temperatures are rising because the emission of greenhouse gases generated by human consumption of oil, coal and gas is out of control. But imagine if we could change this, if we could make better use of organic waste in the future by using it to fuel vehicles, for instance. Or if we could use the banana peels, coffee grounds and other foods that you've thrown into the dustbin to fertilize farmland instead of just incinerating all this waste. This is by no means a futuristic scenario. In fact, it's already happening. Gemidan Ecology has developed a revolutionary system which yields a unique purity of more than 99.9%. This means that the waste can be applied directly as fertilizer on farmland once its energy has been extracted for biogas. This is how the Ecology system exploits more than 95% of the easily accessible organic material contained in the waste. Not only that, it costs less than traditional waste management systems. We are constantly working to make both the system and the technology even more efficient and sustainable. This is the circular economy at its best. By making a small joint effort, we can exploit and reuse waste far better than we do today. To achieve this, however, it's important that you sort your waste, which is actually quite easy. All you have to do is sort it into two categories: organic and inorganic material. The organic material, which is recyclable, is whatever is edible by humans and animals. It's also okay to throw out packaged foods along with the organic waste. Chemicals and medicine cannot be reused, and you must deposit them at your recycling station as you usually do. Textiles and nappies aren't organic materials either, which is why they must be discarded as residual waste in the dustbin. When the waste arrives at Gemidan Ecology's system, it's fed into a large rotating centrifuge known as a pulper. The pulper mixes the waste with water, quickly breaking down all the components into a mash-like substance called biopulp. From here, the biopulp is sent to a separator, which removes the inorganic material and sends an organic mass at a degree of purity above 99.9% to a biogas facility. Biogas, a green sustainable alternative to fossil fuels, is extracted from the biopulp. The degassed residual product from the Ecology system, which is used as biofertilizer on farmland, is up to 10 times purer than required by law. Back at the facility, all the inorganic materials have been rejected, and the dry matter is recycled wherever possible or sent to incineration, which converts your waste and mine into district heating, benefiting all of us. Help us to be kind to our environment. It's simply common sense, and green at that. Gemidan Ecology is a revolutionary technology capable of mechanically converting organic waste into a biopulp that can be used for energy and fertilizer. The system is designed to efficiently receive, process and get rid of organic waste. First, the lorries cross the weighbridge, where all accessible data about the waste are recorded and stored as documentation as required by law. The system is designed to be able to efficiently handle all types of lorries. The delivered waste is either tipped into the receiving pit or directly into the receiving hall. The system and the technology are designed to be able to handle waste enclosed in all types of packaging. Plastic, metal, glass, and cardboard. After this, the process of processing the packaged organic waste begins. The waste is loaded into a feed hopper by a front-end loader. In this system, the feed hopper is capable of operating for about 4 hours, but it can be adapted as required. Once the feed hopper is filled, the automatic process begins, in which the packaged organic waste is conveyed up into a small feed hopper by a screw conveyor. This process helps enhance the efficiency because the feed hopper fills the pulper very quickly. The pulper is a large rotating centrifuge in which waste is mixed with water, quickly dissolving the mixture into a mash-like substance called biopulp. From here, the biopulp is sent to a separator, which separates the inorganic material from the organic material, to send a more than 99.9% pure organic pulp to a storage tank and onto tankers destined for biogas plants. The plants extract the biogas from the biopulp as an eco-friendly, sustainable alternative to fossil fuels. The degassed residual product from the ecology system is spread as biofertilizer on farmland, thereby contributing to the circular economy. Back at the facility, all the separated inorganic materials have been sorted out. The dry materials are recycled wherever possible. The inorganic material left over can be sent to an incineration plant which converts your waste and mine into district heating, benefiting all of us once more. Help us to be kind to our environment. It's simply common sense, and green at that.
And here you have a schematic of how the process is going on in the plant. I'll now give you some thing about the initiatives in the future. Frederikshavn Municipality has a number of recycling arrangements in which, as mentioned earlier, some have a potential for improvement. It is obvious to optimize the existing system for collection of glass, metal and plastic package. As mentioned earlier, the waste from household is separated into food waste, residual waste, paper and batteries. A future scenario could be adding an extra dry mixed fraction to the home collection system. And this will be in line with the upcoming legislation that is suggesting collection of up to 10 different recycling fractions for, at household. We are considering future options, but is still waiting for the final legislation. But something will happen in this area during 2021. The mixed fraction could be glass, metal, plastic collected for delivery to a central sorting facility. The central sorting facility could manage the separation by technical solution into recycling fraction and waste for incineration and energy recovery. Central sorting plants are not typical in Denmark, but Aalborg Municipality has a plant with capacity also to treat waste from Frederikshavn. But as I say, nothing has yet been decided what we will do in the future. This was my final word, and I hope you can use some of the information. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Poul Nieburh. I'm head of department of the Facilities Management Center of Frederikshavn. I'm going to talk about how we are focusing on our energy consumptions at Frederikshavn, the municipality of Frederikshavn, and tell something about the topics that we can see that we are focusing on in the future. Here's a slide that can show you how the building regulations have been regulated over time. The blue column is showing what the average consumption is for the building mass in Denmark, and the other columns have shown that you can see here in about 1980 the first demands for the energy consumption in the building regulations was written in. The demands for energy consumptions for new buildings was regulated again in 1995, and when in Denmark there was a lot of focus in the start of the year of 2005 to 10 for how the new regulation system was going to be. And as you can see, from 1995 to 2020, there's been a really increased fall of how much the building in Denmark are using. Here in Frederikshavn, we can see that we are not building a lot. We are most of the time are adapting the existing building mass. So our focus in our daily job is to see if that we can lower the average consumption for the existing building mass. When we work with the building mass here in Frederikshavn, we have 4 focus points. We spend a lot of time of focusing on our energy management systems, and that's to see where are the possibilities to lower the energy consumption, and also to see if when we are making energy savings projects, that if we can see that of the ROI is good or not good. We also in our daily job work with a lot of small projects. As an example, that can be a change of lighting, changing of pumps, and see what new system and projects that we can develop, and so we can see the return of investments come back in time. What we will focus on today is more of what we are doing when we work with the large projects with the lower ROI, and that's when we combine the energy projects with the maintenance jobs. today our overall focus is on existing building mass. We have 3 topics that we are focusing on in our daily job. One of the graphs is showing our focus on our building conditions, and at all time focusing on when to do our investments so the building mass don't become so poor and so in a bad shape that it's better to demolish the buildings, but instead focusing on with a lower invest, bring it back to a better shape. The other topic that we're focusing on is the energy consumption, and in Denmark we work with the energy scale, and focusing at all time to see if we have buildings that in this area from E to G, at which possibilities is that to do investment, so we can make a better energy, lower the energy consumptions for the building, and so in all time as I was showing on the other slide, that the general level will be lowered. The last focus point that I will go into is the quality of the building. In the municipality of Frederikshavn, the general average age of the buildings is from 1950 to 1960. So a lot of our buildings is from another time where the demands for the buildings perhaps were a bit different. So we are focusing a lot on to see when we are going to modernize kindergarten. So which demands are for a new building and to the new way to use the buildings for. And in Denmark we have a lot of different labels of quality that we can focus on. And one of them is the swan mark, or the European flower, that's are telling a bit of the quality of the materials that we are using when we are renovating or building new buildings or new projects.
So can you give some examples on how you look at the quality of the building? What would that be in practice?
Some of the focus points today is example as the indoor climate. For 50 years ago, we didn't here in Denmark we didn't focus on the indoor climate. It was a different time. We were not as much indoors than outdoor at that time. That can also be today we use more square meters per person in the rooms, the way that we are using our indoor areas. But it's also a kind as how is the degassing of the materials when we have finished the project. Is the room nice to be in? How is there some materials that we are using for the woods or the ceilings, and so how easy is it to renew the materials, and so in Denmark we have different labels that tell us and it gives us a guarantee that it's eco-friendly and so. Right at the time right now, we are having a project where we are trying to focus on a holistic perspective, and instead of only focusing on the quality of the projects that we are making, we also are focusing a lot of the materials that we are using. So we are focusing on how much CO2 is binded in the production of the materials. We are focusing on LCC, life cycle costs, LCA, making a life cycle analysis. What's life cycle analysis? We are focusing about is the projects and the way we are making our projects. Is it good for the environment indoor, or is it bad? We also focus on architecture and in how does the room that we are making stand out for the people that are going to use it, and a lot of other things. Maintenance is also a topic that we are focusing on, and as you can see in the spider web, we can combine and measure different projects to each other, and from that I think we can take some more qualified choices when we choose new products.
Is this a more expensive way of thinking when you are looking at this holistic way or sustainable way? Is it more expensive, or what do you think?
Not necessary, but I think we are going to make our choices from not a gut feeling, but it's going to be measured. So I think we'll have to not do as we do in general, but have to take some qualified choices. But it's also because sustainability is widgeted more and more in Denmark, and it is being a focus point because we know that our globe has we have to reduce, and there are some materials that there are not enough of.
But in general, can you tell me what's the difference between to have a facility management center where you have collected all the municipal buildings in one department instead of in the good old days where the director for a school was also managing the building? What is the big difference for you?
I think that the most important point of view is our perspective is longer and wider. In term for a school director, perhaps he sees one year forward and look at his budget and takes the decisions from that, and where we here in Frederikshavn have made some commitment, with our climate municipality, that we have goals from now to 2025, and we know that we have to do some. We have to make some choices to reach our goals in other perspectives than only focusing on our building mass.
But you also have some words you call wiser square meters. What does that mean?
Yeah, here in Frederikshavn we can see that the population rate is nearly steady, and that we are focusing on to see if we can use our building smarter, and also see if when perhaps we can see that the population here in area is getting older, we have to change the way that we're using our buildings to what the population needs. And in the same time, we also have to change our buildings to the new demands, the way that we work and live today. And one of our focusing points is also that see if and we can do so that our buildings can be used in different areas, so we don't build or have buildings that are only perhaps used for 5 or 10 or 20 hours each week. So we have to focus on quality and not quantity.
When you are upgrading a building, what is the 4 or 5 main points that you look at when you have an old building here and please upgrade it? What is typical to look at?
The main focus is always what are the building going to be used for. So we have to see what the interests are for the future use. When we have that focus points, we have to see if have the building got to change? Are the use different from room to room? Is a possibility that we in all time can focusing so we only use as little energy as possible during the day, so we adapt to the necessary consumption. And the same thing is also at focusing on that placing different areas in the right way. We are at the time now building a new kindergarten that called Golfparken, and the rooms that are used for the kids in the daily day when they're inside, they are facing north, so we don't get the impact from the sun that making a bad indoor climate, and then we don't have to use energy to cool the rooms down. So there are something of the topics that to make a good plan to what are the building going to be used for, making good plans on what are the possibilities to lower the energy consumption, and that from that we have the building regulations, but then the main focus is that we are good at focusing on the behavior of the building that's going to use it. So we think in the way they are going to use the building, and in that way can be ensure that the consumption is reduced as low as possible. Again, this is a slide that we are focusing on the quality of a school that we have been renovated right at this time, and the main focus is here is to see if it's possible to do an effort to higher the quality of the building, and at the same time reduce the energy consumption of the building. And we have screened with the school to focusing on the 4 points. How good is the lighting? How good is the ventilation? How good is the acoustics? And how is the thermal indoor climate? And as you can see at the picture, when we screened the building, the lighting was okay. It shows overall green. When it's shown as yellow, it's medium, and if we had registered it as a red area, it was a bit with a poor or bad score on the lighting. And that's a way to show, as an example, the politicians here are some issues that could be good and be focusing at, and make a plan of how can when we're going to renovate this school do the right investments and smart investments to make a good quality for the building and at the same focusing on energy. To tell a little more about the projects, I will give the word to my colleague.
Johannes, and I'm working as project leader. It's most on the projects on the buildings. In this case, as Bo were talking about, he had made a benchmark for this building and set up some pinpoints we want to work with. And in this case, we were talking about lighting. And as we work, we is pinpoint some quality things about building, and because we have worked with energy and buildings for so many years, the energy consumption for the building, but also for the products, is normally. So when we look at this project, the lighting system is standard for us to work with, and the energy use for the whole building is standard. It's just something we do. We benchmark a lot of our buildings, and we do a lot of smaller projects where we lift something in a building. In this case, we work with ventilation for a school, and we use some energy on the installation. So years ago, we were working with a project like this, most for the money. And now we are working for the good project. And in the good project there is low energy use for the equipment, but also the good climate in the building. So here it's law that we need to work with good projects in climate, in energy, in the whole building. Another case is a roof. We have a lot of old buildings, and we do a lot of maintenance for the whole old buildings. And in this case, we are doing a normal maintenance work with a new roof. But because we have our regulation and our laws, we have a very high level of isolation on every roof we're working with. So you can say a roof is a roof, but in this case, for us it's just a roof we are working with. But in that project, there will always be and work with the material as Bo were talking about, but we are also as a standard looking at how much energy will the whole building use when we are finished, and that's law in Denmark. So for us, it's a normal day at the work.
Johannes, can you tell me what are the typical problems with old buildings? What is the 5 or 4 main points that if you're attacking an old building, what are you looking at?
Economy.
Economy.
It's easy to build a new building, and when we have a regulation where the law say how must you build a building, so it's okay here where we are living, it's easy. The different thing is when we have an old building where old materials, old practice, building a building, different use of the building. The old buildings is the difference, and we have 1% new buildings for a working year, and the rest is the old buildings. Then maintenance is a bigger and bigger problem, because we have a lot of old stuff, and when we benchmark buildings, we are looking at all our buildings, the newest and the oldest, and we want to lift up the whole benchmark as a strategic point.
When do you take the decision that this building is in such a bad condition, so we have to break it down and we have to build new instead of?
It can be different cases, because in some places we have other rules for buildings we cannot remove. Then we need to do something. Sometimes it's very expensive to work with that case, but that's a little problem in our working group. The biggest problem is our building mass have a lot of buildings from 16, 17, 18, and those buildings are built as a system, and if the system is bad, it could be an example. It could be materials who are pollution or something like that, and sometimes we say that building is too bad. Remove it.
If you look at a new building, can you tell us about the slide you have there? What is typical in the roof? What is typical in the walls, windows, and the insulation? Can you go through the building and say what are the regulations or the demands today?
We have the law text about how much isolation we need to have in our building, and that's based on an energy benchmark for how much can a whole building use. And a Danish company have made this model. If you are using their product, you will have a picture like this, and in the most new buildings, but also in old buildings we are working with, we're using that model, and that means that we have 300 millimeters isolation in the floor, and almost 400 to 500 millimeters in the roof, and the walls 200-300 millimeter isolation in the sides in a normal building. But then we are also working a lot with our technical systems, our pump systems, our pipe systems, our lighting systems, and there are different rules for what they use of energy, but also a lot of other parameters.
What is can you say a little bit more about the difference between the walls, the roof, the floor, and the technical side? What are you looking mostly at today? Is that the technical side to optimize that, or is it to have the walls and the ceiling and blah blah blah?
It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
We were looking at building stuff like a roof or like a pump 10 years ago. Today we are looking at the whole building, as Bo were told about. It's also about the quality inside the building. So for us, it's quite normal looking to a project and say what can we do here, and where is our money hvad hedder det? Bedst brugt?
Best use.
Yeah, best used in this case. And then in the next case it can be a quite different project with other with other works on.
What about the materials? Do you see that there have been, for many years we have been using bricks and insulation in Denmark,
Yeah.
but what do you think will be in the future? Will that be the same, bricks and insulation?
A lot of buildings are built with materials that can work in 100 years, 200 years, but the energy, especially the energy consumption, have shown us that isn't smart. The use of the building isn't the same for 200 years. So I think we are going in a way where we are using materials for a building, but for 50 years. And then we change the focus to how can we recycle and build something new from the same materials.
Okay. So you think recycling will be a part of it?
Yeah, actually a building is built from some materials and right now we will use wood here and stone here and stuff like that. And when someone is looking at that material bank in 50, 60 years, maybe they will use the wood other places where it's smarter. And then I think the mindset will be recycling material, and it's formed for a building today. In the future, it will be another case.
We are seeing the same elements on our technical systems. We're having a project right now where we are focusing, as an example, lighting, and a topic that can be the element that we make our choice on can be if the lighting system can be when you have to change the lighting systems, can you divide it into different parts and put it in a recycling element back again, and then so you can see the cradle to grave become active in the process afterwards.
It's like when we were kids, we were building with Lego.
Yeah.
We put the bricks together, and when the day is over, we break it down, and tomorrow we build a new building.
Yeah.
So energy is not anymore just the keyword in Denmark, but we're going to focus a lot of sustainability, so we can recycle our materials.
Interesting. If you have to make a conclusion of what you've been telling us, what do you think about for the future? What is your mindset? When you started, for example, 10 years ago in this municipality, you had the mindset energy. What will be the new mindset for the future when you're thinking using a building?
I'm sure that the focus will be on that our resources is not endless, and energy is just one topic of the resource mindset. And therefore we have to be wise and plan for the long terms to at one point to be ensured that we are making smart buildings that can be used for a lot of different people and different jobs. And the other thing is to focusing on what materials can be recycled and which materials are possible to produce again and again, the question we were discussing before is that when we are building again, I'm sure that we will see a lot of new materials that are being invented or used in new ways. And therefore also the topic of the recycling element is that we have to think in when we start a new project is how are we in 30 years, as Johannes said, be able to take the building apart again and put it in a recycling perspective.
Johannes, is it the same way you are looking at it, or do you see more changes in the future?
I think it's very important to remember that the buildings we are working with now, when they built them, they were thought that they were the smartest and the best, and the way they used the materials and the technology at that time it couldn't be better. And I think it's in our mindset today that we don't know how the future will be, and we don't know how the use of our buildings will be. So it's in our mindset that everything can happen in the future, and maybe it isn't difficult to work with as what is that called? As a resource, a human resource.
And in that context, I think that we can see today that the way that we are controlling our buildings in daily basis, we have a lot of controlling elements in the way that we here in Denmark are using our buildings. Alarm systems, controlling systems for heating and lighting, and so and so and so. A lot of IoT devices are put in our buildings, so we got a lot of data. So the interesting thing today is to put data together and get information and the knowledge that can provide us to what we're going to do in the future, and also ensure that that demands for how to use our buildings are giving back the quality and the things are asked for to make good buildings in the future.
I think it's interesting the way you're telling us it is that in the good old days you were building a building and then it was finished.
Yeah.
Now you are thinking it as a living building for the future instead of thinking it as now you have built it and now that's it.
Yeah, but I think in the facility management world, people know that if you use 1 kroner to build the building, you use 5 kroner to put into the consumption element for within the future. And if you also see how much money are you going to put in the building overall to the people that are using it, to maintain it, and so in time, it's a factor 200. So it's if you do it wrong when you build it, it have a very, very big effect in the end. And that's what we are focusing on.
Interesting. Thank you. Well, now you've been listening to 3 different speeches, and I think that some of the main points are that climate changes has come to our area too, but we are trying to, instead of saying this is very, very bad, we are trying to take action on
what is happening, and we are trying to create new jobs. We think there's a lot of new jobs in the future for the transformation from black to green and handling the climate changes. Therefore, it's not only bad that we have the climate changes, but I think that the main point is that we can handle the climate changes for the future, but it demands some new mindset. For example, that you think much more about recycling, using the materials again and again and again when you're speaking about buildings, instead of breaking it down and don't use the materials again now. And in the future we will be looking at how can we reuse the materials. And also about waste. Until now waste has been waste, and you've got to get rid of it. Instead of you are thinking about how can we see waste as a resource. For example, you can use household waste for biogas production, or I hope that we in the future can separate phosphorus out of the waste. So again, the recycling mindset, a more sustainable way of thinking. But also what I think is very important is that when Bo and Johannes was talking about the buildings, they are saying we are not only looking at the energy reduction in the buildings, we are also looking at how can we make buildings for people for many years for the future. So I think we are trying to say, yes, the climate changes is a bad thing, but we can handle it, and we are trying to handle it in a better way for the future. So when our kids grow up, they can look at us and say, hey, you delivered some bad things, but you tried to work it out in a better way. And that I hope you got an impression of. And the last thing today is that I would like to show you how did we handle the village, which was, I showed you a picture of in the beginning, where there has been coming so much rain falling, so it has been, the whole village was standing with their legs in water. And that would be the end of the day. So you see that we can also handle flooding in practice. Thank you. We are standing just outside, a few kilometers from Frederikshavn, and in the background you see a small village called Elling, which means dog in English. And I told you this morning about how the climate changes is coming to our area. One of the main problem is water. And 4 years ago, in October, like now in the autumn, there was a heavy rain falling for several days, and for the first time for many years this village was totally overflowed with water. Many people had to move away from their houses until the water has gone away, and they had to repair their houses. It was a terrible situation for the people who was living there. And now 4 years later we have been trying to handle the water, because the water is coming, when the rain is coming, the water is coming from the fields, and the small river that is here, it's totally full, and the ways the water could not come away from this place, so it actually stopped here at the village, and now we have been trying to handle it, and I would like to show you how has we been trying to handle it with some different things. What you see in the background is actually a small river, but 4 years ago, as I told you, because of heavy rain and the water could not pass away from the fields up here, the sea is right over there, a few kilometers from here, but 4 years ago the water was everywhere, and I think if you see it down there now, that at that time it was going onto this level, and if you turn the camera around you could imagine why the whole village was flooded. Well, to prevent things like what happened 4 years ago, the municipality said we have to do something, and they did two things. First of all, they built those dams in front of the village, so that if the water is racing, it can take some meters here. And the other thing is that they have been digging a big hole to pump over water when there's coming too much water, and then they when it's raised to a certain level, the pump is starting to pump over water, and when the water is falling again, they can open so it can float out into the sea. But they started building with this, and afterwards they built the big hole to collect water when it was too much in the river. Well, I hope you have enjoyed the day from the municipality in Frederikshavn. You heard about how we work, what we think will happen in the future. What's for sure is that if we don't do anything, the climate changes will go very, very bad. But I hope you have the impression that you can do something, and we are actually looking very positive for the future, because we think we can handle the climate changes all over the world if we have the right approach. Thank you.